right, guys, welcome to part 77 of my overview of the Bible story. Thank you so much for joining me in another episode today. How are you doing? Guys, let me know in the comments how you're doing. Hope you're doing great. Today we're going to talk about Yahweh's appointed times. Yahweh's appointed times. If you read the Bible, you will see that Yahweh likes to do things at certain times. It's like he's already decided beforehand that things are going to be done at a certain time. Okay, time is Yahweh's idea. Did you invent time? I didn't invent it. Do you follow a 7-day week? I do. Did I make the week? Did you invent a 7-day week? No, it wasn't your idea. It wasn't my idea. Well, whose idea was it? It was Yahweh's idea, right? So, like it or not, that's just how it is, right? So Yahweh seems to like time, and he made things to happen at certain times. Remember what Jesus said? Jesus said this, "My time has not yet come." Actually, he said this sentence many times during his life. Remember when the people were mad at him and they grabbed him and they took him to the edge of a cliff to throw him off the cliff? Why didn't they succeed in killing him? Well, they didn't kill him because his time had not yet come. Yahweh didn't let them kill him. They wanted to kill him, but somehow it says that Jesus just walked through the crowd. He went away. It's like, how did that happen? I don't know, but his time had not yet come. Remember also when Jesus was at the wedding in Cana and his mom came to him and said, "They're out of wine." And Jesus said, "Woman, my time has not yet come." And then she told the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." And then he went and he did his first miracle. He turned the water into wine. Okay, so so it seems like there are certain times for things, right? So very often he says Jesus' time had not yet come, but when he gets close to the Passover, right, close to his time of death, he actually says this, "Now the time has come for the Son of Man to enter his glory." Okay, so he's getting close to his death. He knows this is the time. Now it has come. Remember when they arrested Jesus in the garden? When Jesus was in the garden the night before his death, the darkest night. Remember when all the people came to arrest him? What did Jesus say to them? He said, "This is your hour, the hour when darkness reigns." What a scary statement. The hour when darkness reigns. Doesn't that just give you the creeps? Darkness reigning. Imagine darkness. Imagine just total darkness forever. No light. Wouldn't that be depressing? That would be dark. That would be very dark. Literally and spiritually dark. So he told the people, now is your time. It's your hour. And he also said, "What should I pray? Should I pray, 'Father, save me from this hour'? The whole reason I came into the world is for this hour." Right? So Jesus knew that the whole reason he had come into the world was for the Passover. Okay, this time to die, to shed his blood, to make atonement for the sins of the whole world. He knew that was his time. Okay? So guys, we see in this story that Yahweh is controlling events so that Jesus would die on the Passover. So at that particular time, that's when Jesus would die. Yahweh is controlling events. Okay? Now, why the Passover? What's so significant about this? Why did he have to die at this time? Guys, well, the Passover is the single biggest event in the whole Bible. So remember, the Passover was when the Israelites were in Egypt, right? And then God saved his people from Egypt. That was the Passover, when they put the blood of a lamb on their doorposts, and then, God passed over those houses where he saw the blood, and he didn't kill anyone in those houses. But that very night, he took the people out of Egypt, saving them from slavery. Okay? So that's the biggest event in the whole Bible. That time, the Exodus from Egypt, the Passover. Well, that event wasn't just about slavery in Egypt. That first Passover was a foreshadow of the even bigger Passover, where the Lamb of God would die, and by his blood covering us, we can be saved from slavery to sin, from this dark world, and given a new destination. He's taking us to the promised land. Okay? So the first Passover was huge. It was a huge event, but that was actually looking forward to the even bigger Passover. Right? This Passover involved the blood of a lamb. This Passover involves the blood of the Lamb of God. Remember what John the Baptist said when he saw Jesus? He said, "Hey, look, there goes the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world." So guys, this is why Yahweh is choosing the Passover, for Jesus to die as our sacrifice, the sacrificed lamb to cover our sins. Okay? So where are we now in the story? Remember, we're up here in the house, the early church, right? So Jesus went up to heaven, and now his disciples, about 120 followers of Jesus, are in this room, kind of upper room of this house. Okay, and remember what Jesus had said. He said, "Do not leave Jerusalem, but wait for the gift the Father promised, which you have heard me discuss." Okay, so what is this gift that the Father promised? And why do they have to wait? Okay, because we see that after Jesus rises again from the dead, he stays with them for 40 days. Okay, and he appears to them many different times and talks with them. And so for those 40 days, he's with them. Then he gets taken up into heaven. But now they have to wait a little while longer. Why? It's because Yahweh has a plan for something to happen on an appointed time. Yahweh's going to give the gift at an appointed time. And what time is this? What day is it that he's going to do this? Well, it's we're going to take a look at this actually in the next episode. I'll give you a hint. It's Pentecost, the day of Pentecost. But so in this episode, I just want to talk about the 7 feasts of Yahweh. Back in way back in the books of Moses. Okay, remember when Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Well, in those books, in the book of Leviticus, Yahweh had set 7 festivals. He wanted his people to celebrate 7 festivals that are called the 7 festivals of Yahweh. Okay, and these are annual festivals. So every year, he wants 7 festivals. That's what he told Moses to tell the people, to teach the people. And we're going to take a look at that, okay? If you want to read, well, we're going to read this whole chapter right now. Leviticus chapter 23. In this chapter, it talks about all 7 of these festivals, or these feasts. Some are only 1 day long. Some are multi-day, like a week long. Okay, so it's pretty interesting, and we've already talked about one, which is Passover, but we haven't talked about the other ones. I want to talk about those now. It'll kind of give this story a little bit more clarity. Okay, so let's just start reading. Yahweh said to Moses, "Give the following instructions to the people of Israel. These are Yahweh's appointed festivals, which you are to proclaim as official days for holy assembly." Okay, assembly means getting all together, right? You come together to do this festival, right? Can't really celebrate a festival alone, can you? You have to kind of get together. So God wanted his people to get together, celebrate like a festival. So 7, these are Yahweh's appointed festivals. So Yahweh's going to give 7 festivals now to Moses to teach the people. But first, he's going to remind them about the Sabbath. Okay, so Sabbath, the Jews say Shabbat. Okay, so this word in Hebrew is Shabbat. In English, Sabbath. I don't know what it is in your language. What is it in your language if you speak Chinese or Greek or Arabic? I don't know. What is that word? In English, we say Sabbath. Okay, so this is Yahweh's just going to remind people about the Sabbath. What is the Sabbath? You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work. But the 7th day is a Sabbath day of complete rest, an official day for holy assembly. It is Yahweh's Sabbath day, and it must be observed wherever you live. Okay, it's Yahweh's Sabbath. See, hey, guys, it's my Sabbath. I made it, so it's it's a day of rest. Okay, so that's his reminder about the Sabbath. Now let's talk about the Passover. Okay, so the Passover is the first special festival every year. Remember, these feasts are annual feasts. So the first one, the first month of the year, is see, guys, the calendars, the Jewish calendar is really different from our calendar that we use today. Our first month is January. Their first month was Nissan, like the car company, Nissan. So anyway, so the Passover celebrated in the first month of the year, not our first month of January. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's read about what's Yahweh going to say about this festival. In addition to the Sabbath, these are Yahweh's appointed festivals, the official days for holy assembly that are to be celebrated at their proper times each year. Okay, so all these 7 festivals he's going to talk about are annual festivals. Okay, so Yahweh's Passover begins at sundown on the 14th day of the first month. On the next day, the 15th day of the month, you must begin celebrating the festival of unleavened bread. This festival to Yahweh continues for 7 days, and during that time, the bread you eat must be made without yeast. Okay, so unleavened, that means no yeast. Another word for yeast is leaven. All right, so most bread these days is made with leaven. It's made with yeast, so it rises, right? If bread is made without yeast, with no leaven, then it just stays flat. It doesn't rise, right? So notice there are 2 festivals here. One is the Passover. That's a day, 1 day, the 14th day of the first month. Okay, the next day, there's going to be a week long, a 7-day festival that starts, and that's called the Festival of Unleavened Bread. Okay, guys, are we still recording? Yes, we are. Thank you for your patience, guys. So it's kind of like this. This is the Passover day, right? 1 day, but then the next day starts 7 days of unleavened bread. Okay? So here we got two of the 7. Remember, there are only 7. Two of them are back to back here. Wow, interesting. So let's keep reading what it says. On the first day of the festival, all the people must stop their ordinary work and observe an official day for holy assembly. For 7 days you must present special gifts to Yahweh. On the 7th day, the people must again stop all their ordinary work to observe an official day for holy assembly. Okay, so the Passover, the day after the Passover is a special day, no work. And then for 7 days, then he's supposed to present special gifts to Yahweh. And then on the last day, the 7th day, again, people need to stop their ordinary work. And have a day of assembly, holy assembly. Okay, so that's the festival of unleavened bread, right? The second one. Now let's talk about the third one on the calendar. Third one is called the Feast of First Fruits, or festival. You know, sometimes people use the word feast. Sometimes people use the word festival. Okay, the Feast of First Fruits. What this means is the first harvest. Okay, so when the people would grow their crops, the very first harvest of the year, they needed to do something special. So that's called the first fruits. So let's read about this, okay? Then Yahweh said to Moses, "Give the following instructions to the people of Israel. When you enter the land I'm giving you, and you harvest its first crops, bring the priest a bundle of grain from the first cutting of your grain harvest. On the day after the Sabbath, the priest will lift it up before Yahweh, so it may be accepted on your behalf." Okay, so a bundle. I don't know how big of a bundle this was supposed to be. Like, back in those days, you had a field growing some grain, right? And then you take your sickle, you harvest your grain. Then maybe you take your first bunch. I don't know how big the bundle was. Your first bundle, you bring it to the priest. Okay, and that's like an offering. It's like the priest will lift it up before Yahweh, so it may be accepted on your behalf. Interesting. So this is the festival of first fruits, and look what it says again. So on that same day, you must sacrifice a 1-year-old male lamb with no defects as a burnt offering to Yahweh. With it, you must present a grain offering consisting of 4 quarts of choice flour, moistened with olive oil. It will be a special gift, a pleasing aroma to Yahweh. You must also offer 1 quart of wine as a liquid offering. Okay, so guys, not in this chapter, but, if you read the Torah, if you read the books of Moses, right? Actually, one of the reasons people find these books boring, like if you read the last 20 chapters in Exodus, and then you read Leviticus and Numbers and a lot of Deuteronomy as well, these books people find extremely boring, because a lot of the instructions Yahweh's giving to his people involve all these different offerings and sacrifices and this and that. So it's really repetitive, super boring. If you're reading the Bible for the first time, I would recommend, start at the beginning. Just start reading. If something's getting a bit repetitive, you just skip over that part, You don't need to know the difference of all the different offerings and stuff the first time you read the Bible. Guys, I've read the Bible many times. I don't even understand all that stuff that well. But, you'll see here that it's talking about different stuff. A grain offering, and a burnt offering, and a liquid offering, and a sin offering, all these different kinds of offerings, guys. Don't worry too much about that, but it does talk about that, not in this chapter. This chapter assumes we already know all these offerings, okay? But they're basically self-explanatory. A liquid offering, of wine. Wine is liquid, right? A burnt offering, it means it's going to be burned, right? The male lamb, it's going to be burned, okay? So, anyway, this is what's supposed to happen on the first fruits, right? The festival of first fruits. The bundle of grain is given to the priest, and as a sacrifice of a 1-year-old male lamb. Okay, so then it says, do not eat any bread or roasted grain or fresh kernels on that day until you bring this offering to your God. This is a permanent law for you, and it must be observed from generation to generation wherever you live. Okay, so basically the idea of this festival is to give the first portion to God, right? Because God is the special one. God is the one who saved his people from out of Egypt, right? So the king, the special, the savior, this great God Yahweh, need to give him the first portion, right, of the crops, the fresh kernels. It says, do not eat any bread or grain or any don't, give the first portion to God and then enjoy the rest, because God is the one who's providing everything, right? God is the one who's making the crops grow. God is the one who's giving health to the flock, all your lambs and goats and all that stuff. Okay, so this is a great idea. First fruits, the celebration of first fruits. So next is Pentecost. Okay, so this is the fourth one. Well, the first one was Passover, then unleavened bread, then first fruits. Now is Pentecost. Now this word Pentecost is the Greek word. Actually, the Hebrew festival name is Shavuot. Shavuot. This is the Greek word meaning 50th. Okay, 50th. Why? Because this is supposed to happen the 50th day after first fruits. Okay, so let's start reading about Pentecost. From the day after the Sabbath, the day you bring the bundle of grain to be lifted up as a special offering, count off 7 full weeks. Keep counting until the day after the 7th Sabbath, 50 days later. Then present an offering of new grain to Yahweh. Okay, so 50 days after, after that grain, the first fruits of the grain is lifted up, right? 50 days after, that's Pentecost. So then present an offering of new grain to Yahweh from wherever you live. bring 2 loaves of bread to be lifted up before Yahweh as a special offering. 2 loaves of bread, right? Make these loaves from 4 quarts of choice flour and bake them with yeast. Right, so remember, unleavened bread, the bread was supposed to be made without yeast. Here, it's supposed to be made with yeast. So they will be an offering to Yahweh from the first of your crops. Okay, so, there's if you know anything about the harvest season, there are kind of different times that you harvest your stuff, right? It's not just like one season. There's it goes in kind of cycles. I'm not a farmer, but your first grain, I think the first grain that is harvested, at least in Israel, at that time, I think it was barley. Okay, so you'd give your first barley, grain. That would be at the festival of first fruits. And then this might be wheat. Does it say? This might be a different kind of grain here, maybe wheat or something. So they will be an offering to Yahweh from the first of your crops. So the idea is anytime you have a crop of anything, whether it be grapes or figs or barley or whatever, it's good to give the first portion to Yahweh as like a thank you, right? So yeah. Okay, so let's keep reading. Along with the bread, present 7 one-year-old male lambs with no defects, 1 young bull, and 2 rams as burnt offerings to Yahweh. These burnt offerings, together with the grain offerings and liquid offerings, will be a special gift, a pleasing aroma to Yahweh. Then you must offer 1 male goat as a sin offering and 2 one-year-old male lambs as a peace offering. All right, so like I said, if you read the whole book of Leviticus, it can be pretty boring because it talks about all these different peace offering, guilt offering, sin offering, burnt offering, all these different offerings, wave offering. I don't know, guys. It can be pretty boring. But anyway, so let's keep reading. The priest will lift up the 2 lambs as a special offering to Yahweh, together with the loaves representing the first of your crops. These offerings, which are holy to Yahweh, belong to the priests. That same day will be proclaimed an official day for holy assembly, a day on which you do no ordinary work. Okay, so this seems like a pretty common theme, right? And that's probably why Yahweh reminded them about the Sabbath before talking about these feasts, right? Because he doesn't want work. He doesn't want anybody in Israel to do work on the Sabbath and on some of these special days, right? So yeah, do no ordinary work. This is a permanent law for you. Okay, permanent. And it must be observed from generation to generation, wherever you live. Interesting. So God wanted the Israelites to keep this stuff, especially when they got into the land, right? Because when they were in the desert, wandering around, I mean, this is where Yahweh gave Moses these instructions, right? Remember, Moses, he wasn't allowed to enter the land, right? He died on Mount Nebo, which is east of the Jordan River, okay? So all these instructions that Yahweh is giving Moses, they're all in the desert, from between the time of Mount Sinai and Mount Nebo, where he dies, about that 40-year period, right? So, okay, let's keep reading. So when you harvest the crops of your land, do not harvest the grain along the edges of your fields, and do not pick up what the harvesters drop. Leave it for the poor and the foreigners living among you. I am Yahweh your God. Okay, so when they're harvesting their fields, right, they're not supposed to harvest the edges of the fields. They're supposed to leave grain all around the fields, okay? I mean, all around the edge of the fields. I'm not sure how much grain on the edge of the field. And also, do not pick up what the harvesters drop. Why? It says, leave it for the poor and the foreigners living among you. Guys, remember when we talked about Ruth and Boaz? I love that story so much. It's just a short book in the Bible called Ruth. It takes maybe about 10 minutes to read, maybe 15 minutes. Super. I love that. It's one of my favorite books in the Bible. So remember, Ruth was a foreigner. She was from the land of Moab, and she went back to Israel with her mother-in-law, Naomi, and they were very poor. And so Ruth went out to do this, to pick up some grain that the harvesters had left behind, had dropped, right? So that's what Ruth did. And that's where she met Boaz. What a great story, guys. So anyway, that's Boaz was a good guy. And so he was doing this. He was obeying this. So that's why Ruth had some grain to pick up after the harvesters, right? So Yahweh says, I am Yahweh your God. Right? I'm watching you. Don't be greedy. Don't pick up all the grain for me and cut all the edges. Guys, take all the grain from the edges. We're going to get rich. Yes, the story is all about myself. No, Yahweh's saying, I am Yahweh your God. I'm watching you. You're greedy. Remember what greedy people, sometimes he kills them. Guys, remember that sometimes Yahweh kills greedy people in the story. Remember that for the next few episodes. Remember Onan? Onan, way back at the time of Judah. Remember Judah's second son, Onan? God just killed him. Why? Because he was greedy. So it's not good to be greedy. Remember, Yahweh is your God, whether you like it or not. And this God, Yahweh, doesn't like greedy people. Okay? So, next we're going to talk about the Feast of Trumpets. Right? Trumpets. Okay, Feast of Trumpets. Let's see what it says. Yahweh said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. Notice, this phrase is happening quite a bit. Give the following instructions to the people of Israel. He's not saying give this to the Gentiles. He doesn't say, hey, Moses, go into the world and give these instructions to the Gentiles. But, on the other hand, these 7 feasts that he's telling Moses, Yahweh calls them the feasts of Yahweh. He doesn't say the feasts of Israel. So it's kind of interesting. They're Yahweh's feasts, but Moses is supposed to be telling Israel. So are these feasts for you and me? If you're a Gentile like I am, are these feasts for us to celebrate? Do we need to observe these feasts? Well, think about it, okay? Just think about it as we keep reading. Okay, on the first day of the appointed month, in early autumn, you are to observe a day of complete rest. Okay, autumn. Now we're in autumn, guys. So the first 4 feasts that we talked about were in the spring. Now the last 3 are in the autumn. Okay, so what was the first one? First was Passover, then unleavened bread, then first fruits, then Pentecost. Those were the spring feasts. Now we're talking about the fall feasts. And this is going to be called the Feast of Trumpets, okay? So it will be an official day for Holy Assembly, a day commemorated with with loud blasts of a trumpet. Loud blasts of a trumpet. Okay? I don't know how many blasts, but a lot of loud trumpet playing, okay? You must do no ordinary work on that day. Instead, you are to present special gifts to Yahweh. Okay, guys, notice this phrase, special gifts to Yahweh. We're seeing it quite a few times, right? Guys, Yahweh, he likes getting gifts. Isn't that interesting? There's specific times that he appointed for Israel to remember him. Guys, it's so easy to forget about Yahweh, right? And what's been the biggest problem in this whole story? The whole story of the Bible, the biggest problem is that people forget about Yahweh. They just totally forget about him. They take his words. I don't need that. I don't even need Yahweh. I'm going to go bow down to other gods, all the idols and all that stuff. Guys, people just forget about Yahweh altogether. So, when you have a set schedule of 7 feasts where they're a good reminder for the people of Israel to actually give Yahweh a gift. Hey, Yahweh, thank you for keeping me alive. Thank you for a great harvest of grain. Thank you for giving my animals health. And thank you, Yahweh, So Yahweh likes getting gifts, guys. But the problem is in the story, people get greedy and they just want to keep everything for themselves. Or they say, okay, yeah, it's my time to give Yahweh a gift. So I'll just choose the worst of my lambs. I'm not going to give the good one. I want the good one I can sell for a lot of money. So, I need to give Yahweh a gift. So I'm just going to give Yahweh the worst lamb that I have. And, the lamb with maybe some blemishes and stuff like that. Yeah, okay. Here you go, Yahweh. You happy with me now? I'm giving you a great gift, Yahweh. Give me more blessings, okay? Guys, this was actually a big problem if you read the Bible. The people were not giving Yahweh their best. Right, guys? A gift has to be the best. If a gift isn't the best, then it's not great. Right? I mean, if you go to someone's birthday party or something, and if you give them a gift, would you give them like a secondhand, I don't know, like, I can't think of an example now, guys, but, I don't know. Wouldn't you want to give them your best? You want to give them something maybe new, something good, something, not something that's like, that doesn't cost you much. Right? You want to give the highest value to Yahweh. Why? Because Yahweh is the great king of the universe. Wow. So, I mean, if you give a good gift to, like, your politician, maybe, to get his favor, I mean, how much more important then would it be to give the best gift to Yahweh? But the people weren't doing that. They were giving good gifts to human leaders, but they were giving kind of just their normal gifts to Yahweh. It's just kind of something they had to do, right? If you're forced to do something, that's not a real gift, right? Is it a gift if you're forced into it? Like if you invite me to your birthday party and you tell me, Mark, you have to bring me a great gift. You're kind of forcing me to give you a gift, right? And I might bring you a gift, but then it's not really from my own heart, right? So like, the reason Yahweh is saying this is because he knows his people, uh, they continually reject him, right? When is he saying this? He's saying this after the people wanted to go back to Egypt, right? So God saved them out of Egypt, right? And in just a great rescue from slavery. And then, remember, God wanted to take his people into the promised land pretty quick, right? But they were just grumbling, and they were like, oh, we want to go back to Egypt. And, I guess Moses is gone on the mountain. Hey, Aaron, build us a god that we can worship, And so, guys, they were just a wicked people. And so Yahweh is trying to train his people here. The book of Leviticus is quite a bit after Mount Sinai already, right? Mount Sinai, that happens in the book of Exodus, the second book of the Bible. Leviticus happens after Mount Sinai. So, it's God is trying to train his people. Just like a parent would train a child, hey, you need to remember certain events, or you need to do this, you need to do that. You need to share your toys. You need to, and really this is great, because the kids then like if a parent trains the child to do certain things that the parent will feel valued by, then the child knows what to do, right? The child knows what the parent wants, and the child knows how to make the parent feel special and feel valued. So yeah, there needs to be some training, guys, between parents and children. And so Yahweh's telling the people, okay, I'm giving you 7 days. Remember when I took you out of Egypt, right? Celebrate, do this, do that. He's giving them specific instructions on how not to forget him. And one of the reasons why the people always forgot about Yahweh is because they didn't do these festivals, guys. They didn't. Or maybe they did them sometimes, but not with their whole heart. So, yeah, guys, it's really good to have a routine. When you have a routine, it kind of gets into your brain and you don't forget it. But also the problem with a routine is sometimes it just can become a normal, it can lose its specialness, right? So I don't know, guys, Yahweh wanted his people to observe these 7 festivals with their whole heart, not just because they had to, So I don't know, guys. It's good to give gifts to Yahweh. That's the bottom line, and especially the first and the best, because Yahweh is the best and the first, right? So yeah. Anyway, so these are now we're talking about the 3 fall feasts now. Okay, the Feast of Trumpets. So now is the next one is the Day of Atonement. Okay, so let's read what happens on the Day of Atonement. Then Yahweh said to Moses, "Be careful to celebrate the Day of Atonement on the 10th day of that same month, 9 days after the Festival of Trumpets. You must observe it as an official day for holy assembly, a day to deny yourselves and present special gifts to Yahweh." Okay, so, guys, all the other days of the year were normal days. People could work, people could do, just think about themselves and their family and their needs and all that stuff. But these 7 festivals, they were a time for people to come together. I think Yahweh knew that people would almost have to be like forced to come together and celebrate as one people, as a people, right? To celebrate their story, right? Because all these feasts, these 7 feasts, they're not just random festivals. They're celebrating the story of Yahweh. Okay, they all have a very significant meaning. And it's like these festivals are holding the nation together. That's why the whole nation needs to come together and celebrate these things. Remember, like when Jesus was a boy, it said that his family, right, Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, they would come to Jerusalem every year. Why? To celebrate. There were certain festivals that people needed to go to Jerusalem for. Okay? Some festivals they didn't need to go to Jerusalem for, but some festivals they did. Okay? So, basically what Yahweh's trying to do here. Yahweh knew that humans were just going to become extremely independent, like hyper individualistic, right? Where it's all just about me, it's all about money, it's all about my advancement, it's all about me, 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 me. And Yahweh's giving a way, like forcing people to come together. So you have to stop your work and you have to come together and actually party. Okay? And if you read with some of these festivals, some of the offerings and stuff like that, actually it involves alcohol, guys. Alcohol. And, God's not a... God is not like a super serious religious person, right? God's not sitting up in heaven. Whoa, you're drinking wine? You need to fear me. I'm Yahweh. Get more serious. Ooh, you're playing music? What's that musical instrument you're playing? Get rid of that. There's no music. This is a serious religion. Break all your musical instruments. Now, guys, Yahweh's not like that. Yahweh would rather have people come together and drink alcohol together and actually love each other, have festivals, party together, than to be super like pious and individualistic, right? Oh, it's all about I need to be just my individual. I need to worship God alone. I need to do everything alone. No, guys, and that's a tendency of super religious, pious kind of people. They always go and be alone. Well, Yahweh has set, it's like he's trying to force people not to be super religious, right? Not to go hide somewhere and just like, not to sit in a cave or a temple for like their whole life and just like meditate. No. Yahweh likes partying, guys. Yahweh loves partying. This is all his idea. It's not my idea. It's in his holy book. He says, you have to observe my feasts. Come together as families, right? Families were to come together and celebrate. It wasn't optional, guys. He's like forcing his people. Love each other. Take care of each other. Have some fun together. Party. Drink some alcohol. Don't be so serious all the time, guys. Eat some good food. Have a festival. Celebration to Yahweh. Right? So, yeah, guys. A day to deny yourself. Okay. So what does it mean to deny yourself? It means stop thinking all about me and give some special gifts to Yahweh. Okay? So anyway, so we're talking about the Day of Atonement. So this is what it says next. Okay? Do no work during the entire day because it is the Day of Atonement. So it's just one day. It's not a week. One day. When offerings of purification are made for you, making you right with Yahweh your God. All who do not deny themselves that day will be cut off from God's people. Wow. Okay, so guys, this is a very serious day. It's a day where the high priest is going to make atonement, right? Purification, making the people right with Yahweh, making peace between Yahweh and the whole group of people, right? So it says, and I will destroy anyone among you who does any work on that day. You must not do any work at all. This is a permanent law for you, and it must be observed from generation to generation wherever you live. This will be a Sabbath day of complete rest for you, and on that day you must deny yourselves. This day of rest will begin at sundown on the 9th day of the month and extend until sundown on the 10th day. Okay, and guys, I think Yahweh knew that human beings would just become workaholics. He just work, right? That's why one day a week, Shabbat, the Sabbath, it's like Yahweh has to force people to rest. And then on these special days, you can't do any work at all. It's a special day, so just rest. Right? I mean, why, guys? Why is it that human beings just work ourselves to death? For what? What's the reason for that, guys? Yahweh doesn't even like our work, right? I mean, he wants us to work hard. He wants us to serve him. But remember what Jesus said. The work of God is to believe in the one he has sent. Okay, so a person who's believing in Jesus is working harder than another person who doesn't believe in Jesus and is trying to get to heaven this way. Oh, I'm working so hard. I'm doing so much for God. It's probably God probably sees your work as worthless, guys. The work is to believe in the one he sent. Okay? So now we're going to talk about the last of the festivals. The last one is the Feast of Tabernacles. Now, this has different names, actually. Some Bible translations call it the Feast of Shelters. Because when the Israelites were in the desert, right, when they were wandering around before they got to the Promised Land, they were living in tents, basically, right? So you could call this the Festival of Tents, or the Festival of Shelters, or the Festival of Booths. Like a booth meaning like a tent, or a Festival of Tabernacles. So it's got a whole bunch of different names. I think in Hebrew, I think it's called Sukkot. I think that's what the Jews call it. Anyway, and Yahweh said to Moses, "Give the following instructions to the people of Israel." So again, here we're the instructions are for Israel. Nowhere does Yahweh say that these festivals are for the Gentiles. Okay? So begin celebrating the Festival of Shelters on the 15th day of the appointed month, 5 days after the Day of Atonement. This festival to Yahweh will last for 7 days. All right, so here we got another week-long festival, guys. So on the first day of the festival, you must proclaim an official day for holy assembly, when you do no ordinary work. For 7 days you must present special gifts to Yahweh. The 8th day is another holy day on which you present your special gifts to Yahweh. This will be a solemn occasion, and no ordinary work may be done on that day. Okay? These are Yahweh's appointed festivals. Celebrate them each year as official days for holy assembly by presenting special gifts to Yahweh: burnt offerings, grain offerings, sacrifices, and liquid offerings, each on its proper day. These festivals must be observed in addition to Yahweh's regular Sabbath days. Okay, that's important. You got your normal Sabbath days every seventh day, the day of rest. But then these ones are extra. They're also special. Sometimes people call these extra days high Sabbath days. They're like special Sabbaths because there are only a few of them, right? In addition to the regular Sabbath days, and the offerings are in addition to your personal gifts. The offerings you give to fulfill your vows and the voluntary offerings you present to Yahweh. Okay, so there are different kinds of offerings. It seems like they're like personal gifts, like that you give out of your own free will, and then there are gifts that are supposed to happen, right? Like, for example, the bundle of wheat. Okay, I mean that needs to happen. It needs to be the wheat and the goat and whatever, the sheep or whatever it was. You can't say, well, instead of giving this bundle of wheat, I'm going to give, some turnips. Here, Yahweh, here's a bunch of turnips. Take your turnips. I don't even like turnips anyway. Look at my special gift, Yahweh. Here, some special turnips. I love turnips so much, but I'm going to sacrifice my turnips and give you the turnips, Yahweh. I know you love turnips. I'm going to keep the grain, all a bundle of grain for myself. Oh, I'm so sad I'm not going to get to eat turnips tonight. Guys, Yahweh knows our heart. Okay? If you give Yahweh turnips and you're trying to do it as a sacrifice to Yahweh, He knows our heart. You can't deceive. Remember, it's impossible to deceive Yahweh. And it's not a good idea to try. Guys, we need to remember that very seriously. We need to remember you cannot play games. You cannot play tricks on Yahweh. He knows. So remember Onan, right? Judah's middle son. Onan was doing the right activity. He was having sex with his sister-in-law, Tamar, right? So, because Judah, the father, Judah had told Onan, go have sex with your sister-in-law, your dead brother's wife, right? And give offspring, raise up offspring for your brother, as a kind thing, as to be a good brother, right? Bring the widow give her a secure place in the family, right? So Onan, he obeyed his father, all right? He did that. He was having sex with her and stuff, but he didn't, it wasn't from his heart. And, he was doing one thing, but his heart was in a different place. And so, you guys, you cannot deceive Yahweh. Remember this idea for the next few episodes. We're going to talk about an interesting story where a husband and wife in the early church, right? Remember the church? This is just new. When Jesus went up to heaven, this group of followers is called the church. They're very new. They're young. This is like the early time of the church. There's two people, a husband and a wife, who try to deceive Yahweh, and he just kills them, just like Onan. You're dead. Okay, so guys, remember Yahweh knows our hearts. So it's a very bad idea for us to try to deceive Yahweh. All right, so let's keep reading. Remember that this 7-day festival to the Lord, the festival of shelters, begins on the 15th day of the appointed month, after you have harvested the produce of the land. The first day and the 8th day of the festival will be days of complete rest. On the first day, gather branches from magnificent trees, palm fronds, boughs from leafy trees, and willows that grow by the streams. Then celebrate with joy before the Lord your God for 7 days. All right, guys, so for 7 days, they're supposed to celebrate with these, nice branches from the trees. I think the purpose of the branches was to, make really nice shelters, really nice looking shelters and stuff. But also maybe they were waving the festival. Does it say? Let's keep reading, guys. So this is still the Festival of Tabernacles, right? You must observe this festival to the Lord for 7 days every year. This is a permanent law for you. It must be observed in the appointed month from generation to generation. For 7 days you must live outside in little shelters, right? All native-born Israelites must live in shelters. Interesting that he says all native-born Israelites. He's not talking about Gentiles here. All native-born Israelites must live in shelters. Okay, so when they were in the wilderness for 40 years, that's all they had. They only had shelters. So Yahweh's saying, when you get into the land, all right, when you get into the land and live in real houses, then you have to leave your house and go live outside and live in a shelter for 7 days. Why? This will remind each new generation of Israelites that I made their ancestors live in shelters when I rescued them from the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Okay? So celebrating these festivals, guys, was not just a party, it was to remember. Okay, all of these special festivals have a place in the story, and they need to be remembered. It's like they connect us to the story, right? They're supposed to be a remembrance type of a thing. Like, remember when Jesus said, remember when they were in the upper room at the Passover and Jesus gave his disciples the cup of wine and the bread and he broke it? He said, do this in remembrance of me. So it's like he was giving us a special festival there that he wanted us to do repeatedly. Now, did he say how often we should do that to remember him? No, he didn't. He didn't say you do this every week or do this every year. Because see, Yahweh is like a parent training a child. When the child grows up, the parent doesn't want to tell the child what to do all the time. Now that the child is kind of matured, the child needs to decide for themselves how often they're going to do certain things, right? And what gifts they're going to give to Yahweh and that kind of thing. So guys, it's interesting that Jesus says, do this in remembrance of me. He's giving himself, right? But he doesn't say how often to do it. And how often do you think people should do that? Should it be once a year, where they remember the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross? He went through so much pain and suffering so that you and me could be forgiven. Should we do that once a year? Or once a week? Or once a day? Or how many times, The Bible doesn't say, guys. So, did we finish this? So it will remind each new generation, guys. So, that's kind of the purpose of these festivals, is to remember and to build kind of a national culture, a culture of remembrance, a culture of unity, a culture that puts Yahweh at the center of the nation. Right? And it's like, oh man, if only the Israelites had done this properly. Because throughout the story, we see they're just totally forgetting about Yahweh. They're taking Yahweh's words, saying, I don't need the words of Yahweh. And they're casting the words behind them. Right? So guys, it's really sad that the Israelites never really did this stuff properly. They did maybe a bit here and a bit there, but they never really did this very well. So Moses gave the Israelites these instructions regarding the annual festivals of Yahweh. There it is. So he gave them the instructions. And that's the end of the chapter, guys. We just read a full chapter, Leviticus chapter 23. So what are the 7 festivals of Yahweh? Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, Pentecost. Those are the spring feasts. And then trumpets, Day of Atonement, tabernacles. These are the fall feasts. So guys, sometimes in the Bible, you'll be reading and it will make reference to these feasts. So that'll kind of help you understand a little bit better what's going on in the story. Because guys, remember, the purpose of this series is to give you an overview in order to inspire you to read the Bible for yourself. So I want to, by the time this series is over, I want you to be able to just start reading the Bible and kind of understand what's going on. Okay, that's why sometimes it's nice to get an overview, and then so you can really dive in, and then the major characters, the stuff, and these appointed times, I think, are one of the important things to understand in the story. That's why Yahweh chose Passover, and in the next episode, we're going to look at Pentecost, okay? So, guys, in the question I asked you earlier, should Gentiles follow these festivals? Well, I'm not sure. And to be honest, I'm interested in doing this because Yahweh calls these the festivals of Yahweh. I'm interested in anything Yahweh's interested in. Even if it's not necessarily for me, because I'm a Gentile, I would actually really like to do this. I just don't know how. I've been around followers of Jesus my whole life, and nobody celebrates these festivals. So maybe it's not that important for Gentiles. The only one they do celebrate is Pentecost. Okay, so some followers of Jesus celebrate Pentecost. Now, Passover, well, that is when Jesus died, right? So you think, oh yeah, followers of Jesus obviously celebrate that. Well, yeah, but they call it Easter. They call it Easter, and it's not actually, it's so when it comes to the calendar stuff, I'm not an expert on that, guys. I'm making this video in April of 2025. Passover happened about a week before Easter, right? So, the Jews today, they still celebrate Passover. Okay, the followers of Jesus, the Christians, they don't celebrate Passover. They have a day called Easter, where they just remember the death of Jesus. They don't actually eat a lamb. They don't do all that stuff that the Jews do, right? Eating and preparing this and that. No. So that's why I say followers of Jesus don't really celebrate this festival the way it was described in the Bible. But they do remember around this time. They remember the death of Jesus and the resurrection of Jesus, and they call it Easter. Okay, so I don't know. So Easter they do, Pentecost, and you'll see why in the next episode. You'll see why followers of Jesus celebrate Pentecost. But for all of these other ones, guys, I've never met anyone in my life who follows these feasts. I don't even really know how to do it. I wish I did. I wish I think it would be fun to have a set schedule of festivals where a community gets together, right? Or families get together. They observe certain days throughout the year. It kind of gives some structure to it would give structure to a family, give structure to a nation, right? To a whole community, people coming together, and wow. That's awesome. So I love this idea, guys. I don't know anybody who who's ever celebrated these. Pentecost, I don't even know if people don't even do anything special. Like the people I know who actually celebrate this day, it's they just maybe get together with their family or extended family. But is there any religious component to this? Is there any like special thing that they do? Do they even read the Bible at all? Or I don't think so. It's just a day of maybe eating. It's a day to celebrate food. Hey guys, let's get together and let's eat some food together. Something, I don't know. Maybe they make a special type of food for this day, or I don't know. To be honest, in my life, I don't know if I've ever celebrated Pentecost in my life, guys. I don't remember a time when that happened, but I know people do. So, anyway, guys, that's just a brief overview. Like I said, you can find that in Leviticus chapter 23, but in other chapters, it kind of talks about these in more detail. Some of this and that. Like, for example, like I said, the Day of Atonement. The high priest, that's when the high priest made atonement for the sins of the whole nation. The whole nation, guys. So, anyway, but all of these are talked about in the Bible. There's just an overview. I just thought that was kind of important to talk about before next episode. We're going to talk about Pentecost, because this is why there's a waiting in the upper room between the time when Jesus goes up to heaven, right? The 40 days from when he rises, 40 days, then he goes up to heaven. And now they're going to wait another 10 days to the 50th day, Pentecost. Remember, Pentecost means the 50th day after first fruits. Okay? So Jesus rising from the dead was like compared to first fruits, and then now they're going to wait till the 50th day, and then something interesting is going to happen on Pentecost. Okay, so stick around for the next episode, guys. Thank you for joining me. As always, I love you very much. Hope you're doing great, and I'll see you over in the next episode of Mark's Bible Overview. Take care.